Dr. Homebrew is brought to you by 5 Star Chemicals, providing safety and cleaning supplies for brewing, distilling, and winemaking at 5starchemicals.com.
Doctor, look!
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
All right, everyone, welcome back. Dr. Homebrew, filling your life with love, filling your iDevice or your Android device with Homebrew goodness. With not Homebrew, because then it wouldn't work and you would void your warranty.
Welcome back as if we ever went away.
We don't leave. We kind of just camp out here. You
we
know what I mean?
sleep, we eat, we drink here for a month, and we come back on the air.
Right, that's all we do. We get locked in the closet. And let me tell you, you think prison is bad? Try living in a closet with Lee and Brian here. It's not fun.
And JP, yeah.
And Tom Cruise.
Why Tom Cruise?
Haven't you ever seen that South Park episode?
No. No. I thought maybe you were tapping into some weird moment in your own personal history.
Watch the show. Watch the show.
South Park. Oh, God, I haven't seen an episode of South Park in like years. It's not that it's not funny.
I don't watch it a lot.
It's just like
but
they set the bar, and it's the bar, and then nothing ever changes. It's always that funny, and it's like after a while you just kind of get used to it.
Yeah, but it is that funny. Really?
Right.
You haven't seen a South Park episode in a year? I would figure you'd have a live stream of that
dude.
as a backdrop in your computer.
In forever.
They just did a one on gluten. It was real funny.
Oh, I bet they did great with that. Yeah.
Yeah, we have gluten-free stuff here tonight, too. What do you know?
All these.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. It is the half gluten free. We do care. Do we care?
We care. We care about everything.
We don't care. Bevo gives 0 fucks apparently. So whatever. Even though she won't say it, she has a microphone, but she refuses to talk. That's all right.
I don't say those words.
Her voice isn't very good anyway.
That's rude.
She sounds more like an android robot.
Yeah, well, the less she says, the better it is for you, JP.
Right.
I expect to hear a lot from her.
Yeah, well, don't get your hopes up too much.
Yeah, right.
This is Dr. Homebrew, and before we get into our hijinks and all that kind of stuff that we like to do, we'd like to thank 5 Star Chemicals. Go to 5starchemicals.com. They are the sponsor of this show. They bring you this show. They are our first sponsor, our longest sponsor. We've been doing it for just over a year, and they really support us, and we really appreciate it. So if you happen to be using any sort of other cleaner and sanitizer that does not say 5 Star on it, stop. Immediately go down to your local homebrew store, buy some 5 Star Chemicals, learn how to properly clean and sanitize your homebrewing equipment. They really do make the best cleaning and sanitizing products around. So check them out, support them, please. Thank them for sponsoring this show and all that kind of good stuff. If you want to be on the show, email me at jp@thebrewingnetwork.com. We are now taking submissions. We have a couple more months to go as far as a backlog of people who want to be on the show, but it never hurts to plan early enough. I need to get better at that. I'm sure everyone would tell me.
Plan early and often.
Yes, please do that. If you happen to make it out here for a show, either physically or virtually by sending your beers, you will get a 5 Star Chemicals gift pack. Kind of a little care pack. They give you some PBW and some Star Sand and all that kind of stuff. So they really take care of us here. They take care of you guys. So please support them, 5starchemicals.com.
Because 5 Star cares, too.
5 Star cares.
They care about your beer.
They really do. They really do. And they help you care about your beer, too. And if you care about your beer, and if you care about me, because I'm drinking your beer, let's be honest, not really. Except at club night. But then I like to judge you. I like to build. Like to use club night as my build-up for judging all homebrews.
Since when did you wait for club night to judge anyone?
Well, that's what I mean. Like I use that as my baseline. So about May or something, I kind of go, homebrew, it's not that bad, and then I go to club night, and then it's like, oh.
So that's your baseline. So when you're basically drunk off your ass, drinking all sorts of stuff, and spouting venom about everyone, that's your baseline.
No, I'm not drunk. I'm just high on a lot of heroin.
Oh.
So wherever, like, so this year it's going to be or next year it's going to be in San Diego.
That's what we hear.
They have some really good shit.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm going to be super high.
And good clubs down there. So yeah,
I wouldn't know about anything.
We'll be checking you for tracks.
Like discotheques and stuff. Like that? What you mean? Like clubs, like dance clubs and shit.
Warehouses,
Yeah.
Warehouses. All right, good. Brian and Lee are here as usual. Everybody.
Hi.
And we have Warren. Beardy
Hi.
here for no reason at all. I think I talked him down into coming down because we're doing some ciders today.
Yeah, you wanted me to get in cider.
I do want you to get inside. Now,
Here
keep
I
in
am.
mind, this is not the Jamil show, so we don't, or the session.
You wanted me to come down and taste some cider.
Yes, that's
Aren't you
absolutely
guys-
correct.
Aren't you guys brewing partners or?
We're brewing friends. I don't know if we're brewing partners yet.
We're people who brew together.
Yeah, it is California. I bet we could file for
We
a
might be
brewing
able to-
partner
yeah, we
license.
could do that.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. We have rights.
Yeah, you can make some cider, get a common cider license, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, who's to say that we don't have the same rights as people who don't brew together?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Would that mean that inversely then, that by brewing together you have less rights than everybody else, if that's how it works?
I don't know. What was the word you said?
You give up rights.
You said a
I'm
word that started
offended
with
by
a
what
C.
you just
Inversely,
said.
right.
Yeah, I don't understand.
I don't know what it means, but I'm
Yeah.
already offended.
Who
'cause
said it?
I'm a brewing partner.
Your brewing partner.
I might move to Berkeley, and then I'll be really offended.
If you made 10 gallons of some beer, though, and like, you're both fermenting them separately in 5-gallon carboys, and then something happened to JP, I mean, would they let Beardy into your house to
That's true.
care
Who would,
for your
who would
beer?
finish the beer that's fermenting
Would you have
in your
visitation
garage?
rights to your carboy?
More importantly, if something happened to me, or if we were fermenting differently, and I brought some beer into Dr. Homebrew, would they let you? Would I let you come in and taste the beer? Because the doctor we don't know.
Right.
We don't know.
Patient confidentiality.
Thank you very much. Warren gets it.
I might not never ever get to taste your beer.
Right.
You might not. Well, not in this setting.
No.
Well, you can taste it.
Not in this lifetime.
You can't
either.
say anything. Well, you can say something, but you can't judge and be on the show.
No one
Wait.
will listen.
Yeah.
Right.
Wait.
No one
the
ever listens
The
anyway.
appearance of a conflict of interest is as real as an actual conflict of interest.
See, there you
you
go.
go.
That's what Lee just said.
Right.
Yeah, he said it.
Lee just said those words.
Actually, Brian did.
So this is a show about beer.
It's a show about beer.
What happened here? We have
some cider going on.
we have cider?
We have Phil back. Phil was on a couple of shows ago, I think, right?
I think, about 3 weeks ago. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, but as far as listeners know, it was like 10 years ago. Or
Yeah,
whatever.
it was. It's good to be back.
And so you're brewing some cider, or not brewing some cider, but you're crushing apples and fermenting them.
That's about it. Yeah,
That's good.
Make
That-
the must, and
I think it's
get
our.
your yeast and
I think it's our
watch what
first
happens.
cider. It's our first
Yeah.
cider on the show,
This
right?
is
Yeah.
our first non-beer on the show.
And then we have
Except
some
for JP's.
Well, that's true. What?
Didn't we have a mead at one point?
We did have a mead.
Yeah.
Yes, we
That
had
was a
mead.
while ago.
Yes.
Oh, we did have a mead. God.
And then Alex Drobshaw left us some cider as well.
Yeah, it's
to
like
try.
the ciders
Was
are
here for the
amazing.
last show.
He
Yeah.
was here for the last show. It's a 100% Brett fermented cider beer.
Oh.
I thought you'd be
Yeah, I want
interested
to try
in
that.
Yeah, I tried one of those once.
And then later on in the show, just once, we have a hard cider from our friends in Moonlight at Moonlight Meadery in New Hampshire. It's called How Do You Like Them Apples? 13.5%. It's a barrel-aged New England hard cider.
Wow. Well, if we don't like it, I
it's
can
a
use
New
it to
England
fuel
style?
my car.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a New England style. Do you like New England style?
Oh, I don't know. That just means that it's 13% because in New England style, you can pretty much add any adjuncts that will add sugar.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, so it could be brown sugar, it could be molasses, it could be honey, it could be whatever.
Well, it'll be interesting to figure out. We're not going to, taste it and kind of reflect on it, but we'll have it like we did at Fuller's in the last show, just as we're kind of going out. It'd be interesting to see what happens with that. I don't know. I don't know anything about it. Michael was just like, "Hey, why don't you guys try some of this cider?" I said, "Great. Why don't we do
Great.
that?
We'll try it."
And then he sent it, and now it's here. It's pretty
We'll
much how it
swig it
goes.
as the lights go down.
Sounds good to me.
Is there honey in there?
I don't know.
No. I mean, they can use honey and, right.
I would imagine so. I mean, they're a meadery, right? Why wouldn't
I would
they?
think they would put honey in it, but maybe
So
some sugar.
You think there's honey in cider?
Yeah.
This is not the Jamil show or the session. It's a clean show.
It's going to be contagious.
You're the one who
though.
dropped the
I
first
know.
F-bomb on this.
Sometimes it's sweeter
so.
than other times.
That's true. That's true, especially if you don't do all the stuff you're supposed to do.
Right.
Yeah. Well, some ciders are pretty bitter too, but
Yeah.
or dry. But that's a different story.
Are we making cider this year, Warren?
You better get started.
I wasn't
Crush is
planning on
that.
it because I'm brewing on Sunday.
Yeah,
I know you
apples
are.
are out now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They are.
know. I liked the cider. I drank the crap out of all that cider we made.
Yeah, I didn't get to have a whole lot. So that's why I'm not really.
You don't get
I'm
let
not
out.
really raring to go.
That's why he's here. He's back for revenge.
Yeah, you don't get let out a whole lot. That's why. You know where I live.
Well, why do you always get to drink it all?
You need to make a bigger batch so you each get some.
Because my girlfriend loves me, I guess.
We made over 30 gallons last year.
Yeah.
Make 60 next time.
But Warren goes, hey, here's a keg. We'll put it on your house. I go, great. And a week later, hey, they remember that keg, the cider that you left? That's all gone. Why don't you bring another one? And then he does. And I'm like, all right. What am I going to do, slow down?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, you didn't tell me.
I did that a bunch of times, and now we're out of cider.
Right. Yeah, which we need to make more.
Next
it's a whole
time,
thing.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing. All right, well, but speaking of cider, we have Phil here with his Common Cider, and we're going to get started tasting that. You boys want to pop that thing open and
pop the cider open?
You know, let's do this thing. Phil, have you ever made a cider before? Tell me about your cider fetish. What caused you to turn away from the grain?
Well, I think my first cider was about 5 years ago, and this is actually you're tasting my fourth cider batch, so it's still new to cider making. It's kind of exciting.
I'm interested to hear about how it's being judged. I mean, apparently there is a cider score sheet. I have no idea about it, even though I entered one in the Nationals. I don't even know if it was judged on a cider score sheet. Was it, Warren?
No, not at that point. It was still just the generic BJCP.
Great, sounds good.
Yeah, they're working on a cider program with as they did with mead. They have mead guide, mead guidelines. They have a mead study guide and a mead exam that you can take to become a mead judge. And the goal is to do the same with cider for the BJCP at some point. I'm not sure where they're at with that, but
so you just. How did you source these apples? Did you do like a group buy, or in case anybody out there wants to make cider and this is their first kind of intro into it?
Well, we live in an area in Northern California that's close to a place called Apple Hill. And the namesake, obviously, there's a lot of apple varieties up there. And it's not difficult at certain times of year to get your hands on some freshly made must. It's typically non-varietal. It's not pasteurized. It's not filtered. And it's the stuff you buy in the 1 gallon jugs that if you don't consume it right away, it's going to spontaneously ferment and
start turning.
you can get some explosions if you're not careful.
Oh, wow.
I've had one or two of those. So at any rate, I grabbed about I think 6 gallons of this up at Apple Hill and pitched. I primed some Red Star champagne, past year champagne yeast, primed it, and let her rip. So it took I want to say from a starting gravity at about 1064. It took quite a while to get down to terminal, but I did get down close to, I think my numbers were 1004.
Okay, so just unpasteurized apple juice and some champagne yeast. Pretty simple.
Yeah, right out of the jug. Pour it in the 6.5 gallon carboy.
Okay.
Pitch your yeast. I put it on temperature control. I think I held it at 64 degrees for about a month, 6 weeks.
Okay.
I racked a secondary and I let it sit there just to get it off the lees for probably another 2 months.
By the way, lees is a winemaking term for yeast, in case the brewers out there don't know that.
Yeah, I'm departing again from the brewers.
And then tisk.
They're not talking about me.
They didn't clone him.
All the lees. I got it off all of the lees.
We got to separate it from lees.
Billions and trillions of my brethren inside these ciders.
That's a scary thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the process of fermentation, I did use a little bit of staggered nutrient addition, and I didn't. In this case, I didn't kill the yeast off or neutralize it with sorbistat, but I did back sweeten it after about 10 months with a little bit of. Let's see, what did I use here? Some xylosweet, about 15 tablespoons.
Xylosweet,
like
what
a
is
synthetic sweetener?
My research on the internet has shown that I think it's actually derived. It's not artificial. It's a natural sweetener, so it's not like NutraSweet, but it's more of a natural sweetener.
Like kisses from your grandma.
But it's completely unfermentable, so it stabilizes. So I didn't want to throw in a bunch of extra chemicals and have that come through in the flavor or the aroma.
So it's kind of like adding lactose or something.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so what you're about to sample here has actually been sitting in. I actually completely forgot about this keg. my earlier cider keg blew, and because I don't usually consume it, and I think it was sitting in the keg in condition for about at 40 degrees for almost 2.5 years.
Oh wow!
So it's pretty well rounded, I think, and I don't know. We'll see what you guys have to say about it. I'm looking forward to your feedback.
Brian, kick us off on this cider journey, man.
Yeah. So the cider score sheet has a different format, and it starts with the appearance. So actually, the first sample we had was brilliantly clear and deep gold with some kind of burnished yellow-orange highlights to it. This one's actually got a little. The second bottle had a slight bit of haze to it. Not as brilliantly clear as the first sample, but still fairly clear. Had fine bubbles rising through it, kind of champagne-like, little slow tempo, and low level of bubbles going through it. It has a nice aroma-wise. It had a real pleasant apple aroma. It seemed sweet and inviting, and it kind of was reminiscent of apple pie. I was almost imagining the spices there, but it's not spicy. The acidity level in there seemed medium-low. Getting into the flavor, it was fairly dry. I mean, it was declared to be semi-sweet, and I get the impression of sweetness in it, but it's like in the finish and the mouthfeel-wise, it's kind of coming across drier than I thought. So, but it has a moderate acidity level in there it's not biting or harsh. It's definitely complementing the little sweetness that is there, and the apple flavor pretty well. Alcohol seems to be medium body. I would say medium full. It's got kind of a rounded fullness to it, not intense or like super syrupy, but for cider it seems to be pretty big bodied. The carbonation is low as expected for a petulant. The mead was declared as being petulant on carbonation wise, which is there's 3 levels: petulant, or still, petulant, or sparkling. Anyway, there weren't a lot of tannins in this. I don't know. Sometimes you need a little bit of that in there to balance it. It's just smooth apple flavor and really fresh tasting apple and pleasant. I really like the flavor, and I especially like the aroma. But that acidity was kind of could have used some tannins to balance that out a little better. But it was nice as it was. Overall impression of this cider, very nice and fresh. The aroma is quite inviting. Seems drier than the declared level of semi-sweet to me. I'm getting the impression of sweetness, and I thought it was probably coming more from the fruit, from the apple, than any residual sweetness. And you could get away with leaving a little more in there to have it meet more like the declared. But like whenever I do a cider, which is pretty rarely, but it just dries out to 0, and that's all you can do. You can't. You'd have to do some sorbates and stop it. Yeah. And sometimes you don't want those chemicals in there. You want to let it go, and dry ciders are just fine too. So if you declare it as semi-sweet, you'd want to maybe leave a little more sweetness in the finish, one way or another. But nice job overall. I'd say bring up the tannins a little bit, touch for better complexity. But it's a nice cider. I ended up, just scoring through the 4 sections of the cider score sheet. It landed at a 39, and that's where I'll leave it. Excellent cider.
Thank you, Brian.
Awesome. Lee.
Okay. Well, what did I think about this? I think Brian's descriptions of this overall were pretty good. There was a nice kind of brilliant light copper color in the original pour on this. The second bottle's a touch hazier. Pours a frothy white head that just goes poof, it disappears immediately, which you kind of expect in ciders. They don't really have much in the way of foam stand on them.
Yeah.
Had a nice apple aroma, nice combination of sort of the fruit and of the rind, which is, at least to me anyways, where most of the really interesting aromas and flavor come from, is from the peel. And definitely had some of that. A little bit of alcohol in there. Nothing was off. There's no sulfurs, no oxidation, no bread or other interesting microbes, none of that sort of English cider bacony funk or anything in here, which in a common cider you don't really want.
Right.
Did you get any? I just wanted to ask. Did you get any kind of acetic at all? Like a hint of it at all?
Me? No,
Like
I did not
acetobacter?
notice acetic.
Just acetic acid, like a light vinegary thing in the background.
Okay.
Yes.
Warren
I
got
thought
it.
I got
Yeah.
a little something, but just background is just like just balances
I
in with
got
everything
a
else.
little bit of acidity, but I didn't peg it as acetic per se.
And I wouldn't mark it as like a flaw because it's just really subtle in the background, but it's kind of there, I think.
Yeah. For the flavor, medium low sweetness. I mean, maybe semi-sweet might have been overstating the sweetness in this a bit. Maybe more like just medium or maybe semi-dry. The interesting thing is it tastes sweeter than it feels. The mouthfeel, the body on this feel very dry. The flavor's got a little bit of sweetness. This is probably from the stuff that you added. I'm not quite sure how that works, but it definitely had a little bit of sweetness in the flavor. Low acidity is just enough to balance it properly, so it doesn't come across like a lot of the commercial ciders, which are basically apple soda pop with alcohol added. It definitely wasn't that kind of overly sweetened sort of thing. Nice apple flavor, again, with some of the rind character coming through, medium carbonation, clean kind of apple juice finish with a little bit of a lemony acidity note, some lingering sweetness. Not much acidity, just enough to balance it for the style, probably. Didn't really pick up much in the way of tannins in here. But probably since the body was fairly dry, it may not have needed much of that. It balanced okay with just a touch of acidity that was in there to me. That's how it came across to me. And to note, to be clear, I am not a cider judge or very terribly knowledgeable when it comes to ciders, but I'm just sort of putting down my observations and what I liked and didn't like here, and playing off a few things it says in the style guidelines on this. Overall, tasty, well-balanced cider, slightly on the sweet side, but nothing like some of the oversweet commercial versions you can get easily. Just enough acidity to support it. Nothing off. Cleanly fermented. I think it's a nice cider. I gave it a 36 points. I thought it was very good.
That is a good point. That we're not really geared towards cider, which is why we don't necessarily solicit cider specifically, but we don't reject it either. So it's a good change of pace.
Yeah, we can take
sure.
ciders and meats. And
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely stretching what I usually do and what we usually do in the show. So,
Yeah, it's pushing
kind of
a little bit.
interesting to do this once in a while.
Yeah,
It's kind of
this cider needs more hops and it needs more of a malt backbone, I think. If you add some more roasty flavors to it,
Go
it might
Brian.
be better.
You know what I think it's missing is a lot of flavors. I mean, it has flavors, but I think it might need more.
It's totally devoid of roast character. And
Right.
I think that's
No.
an issue.
Fail.
Lee, would you add more apple or less apple to this?
I think more apple.
more apple.
Like
And
two
some
more.
cowbell while we're at
Like
it.
two
Yes.
more apple.
More
I think.
apple.
Warren, do you have any observations on it? I know that you don't have a score sheet, and I'm not expecting you to kind of rattle off like these handsome guys do, but any observations as a amateur cider maker?
Sure.
Great.
I definitely just blind tasting. I would have guessed they used a champagne yeast because I always blind taste everything.
Thank you.
Because I've experimented over the 4 years or so I've done cider, and to me it's very obvious when you use an actual cider yeast versus a wine yeast, and even the specific types of wine yeast like champagne or whatever it is, 1117 or
There's a few white
17.
wine
There's
yeast
a couple
that people
different,
like to use. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've used 3 of those, and they were all different, and none of them tasted like if you use actual cider yeast, like dry English or whatever from Y Yeast or White Labs. And so I picked that out, and it kind of got a little bit of that acetic kind of funkiness that I almost thought that there might be a bit of a wild fermentation going on, but I don't know if you actually sulfited the juice or
Did you
anything.
sulfite?
I did not. No.
Yeah. So there's a little wild yeast going on in there. That's cool.
And I
Did
think
the people who sold you the juice sulfite?
or yeah,
Or do you know?
Who the heck knows?
Because you were buying this
you buy it
stuff
in the
and-
jug. And
yeah.
if he says it'll explode, then they probably don't.
Yeah,
No,
if it's
yeah.
unpasteurized, I
Right.
can't imagine it, right?
Yeah, good point.
And I was kind of surprised that you said that the champagne yeast stalled out at 10:04 too. That seems odd.
Oh, yeah.
I've never had a cider stop at anything higher than 1. Like it's usually like
You're lucky if you get
997.
1.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Usually it's low, and so that seems odd to me. But You said it was 2 years old, 2.5 years old.
It'll be 3 years. In fact, it's 3 years old yesterday.
Oh wow! Okay,
it's held up pretty well.
You might take another hydrometer reading. I mean,
Yeah.
it might have dropped down in the keg too. You know, even if did you have it chilled all these years or just room temperature?
After primary and secondary, it's been in 40 degrees pretty much the whole time.
Mm-hmm. I kind of got a bit of a dried apple character.
I got that too. Maybe
and to
like
me,
oxidation
that's
or something?
oxidation in cider. Because I kept the first year of cider that I did for about 2.5, essentially this long. And when I cracked the growler it was in, first glass I had was great. It's like, wow, I really did a good job that first year. Then I left it overnight. The next glass, awful.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if it gets more sensitive to oxidation or if it was just waiting to happen. And then once it got a little bit, it just turned into just like that nasty, bitter, like dried apple.
I think with ciders, it takes just a little bit of oxygen to kind of go, and I think it's because it's not traditionally carbonated as well as like a beer is. So maybe some of that off gassing from the beer is helping to protect from oxidation.
And there's not a lot of other flavors. Maybe the concentration of flavors is less. And
Maybe it's somehow like striated in there, like the top level of the cider is like the cream of the cider. And then you get down to the
pour that off.
Like,
right. I had that the first night, and I was like, "Oh, this is fine." I dumped the rest of it after. Like I didn't finish it. But
bummer.
So I'm starting to get a bit of that, and I mean, if for it being 2.5 years old, that's totally understandable.
Very well.
I got that same thing too, like dried apple rings,
right? Yeah, exactly.
From like Trader Joe's or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not offensive at all, and especially being so old. It kind of works. It's almost like the old ale of ciders, where it blends very well with the flavor of the juice.
Yeah, and it's not real strong either.
No.
It's kind of a background note.
Right.
Yeah.
And my nose is kind of clogged up, so I might be tasting something completely different than you guys. But
dude, we're glad you're here because nose clogged or not, you said a lot of things that made sense about cider.
We're actually drinking water, so
we don't
fooled you, douche.
Man, you took advantage of my blindness.
Phil, what do you think about all this?
Well, I got in addition to what you guys, I got a little bit of apple seed, so I think maybe that's just part of the crush.
Yeah.
So I get that in I guess the phenols, but the phenols tend to be very well rounded in this, and the tannins. Also, what would you guys do to deal with the acetic acid?
Drink it, I would think. But I mean, 2.5 years, stop sitting on
Shake
it.
your finger
I got
at those
quite a bit of
acetobacters.
tannins.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was. Was lacking in tannins necessarily. Because I've had a couple ciders. I've never used like not artificial because yours is naturally derived, but kind of the non-fermentable sugar back sweetening, and it's always made it taste kind of syrupy. I know one of you guys mentioned you got kind of a syrupy mouthfeel, maybe
like a thickness.
Yeah. I get that when I taste some of the non-fermentable back sweetened ciders. But I thought there was a nice tannin to balance. I just thought kind of that syrupy mouthfeel kind of got in the way of that.
It wasn't devoid of tannins. It was they were low and kind of backgrounding that
right.
That fullness kind of took over. It's just really mouth filling and like taking a bite of an apple pie.
Yeah, and to Phil's question, I'm not sure. I mean, the little bit of acetic acid that's in here, I'd worry about terribly. It's not offensive. It doesn't get in the way, and it actually kind of helps drive some of the other volatiles too. So it's kind of actually a nice thing to have in a way.
It probably
I don't know that I worry about it.
It probably just came from whatever wild stuff was on the apples, but when it was juiced, and that champagne yeast took over and didn't let it have that great of an effect. So it's just still in there as a background thing, and it's fermented out. It's done, so it's not really going anywhere else. I mean,
it's not going to get any more intense.
Well, it could develop and meld as things go on.
Okay.
Especially if the cider yeast left, if it only finished at 10:04, there's still something left, like for acetobacter or something that it could finish that out over the next 2 years or whatever it was.
It's 2.5 years old already.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's going to get super too much more acetic, right? I mean,
if you took it out of the fridge,
took it out of the fridge, but the way he's keeping it now, it seems like it's pretty conducive.
I was just saying,
cider,
I was guessing that if the champagne stopped at 10:04,
the
acetobacter or whatever
left.
could have finished it down at the rest of the way.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Does any of this help, Phil, or is it just all like whatever?
It does, I guess. The next time, in fact, I'm just about to do another batch.
Yeah.
So, any recommendations on yeast?
I've always had good luck with Y yeasts. cider yeast. That's the one that I use for any controlled fermentations.
And what kind of character does that contribute?
It really boosts just the apple esters. It doesn't contribute a whole lot of its own. It doesn't. It will add. You need to be on top of the nutrients because it will pump out a lot of sulfur if it's in a nutrient deprived fermentation.
Yes, yeah, those yeasts do have a lot of sulfur.
So
we had to battle that for a bit.
Yeah, and so be on top of the nutrients. What I would do is I added the normal addition at the beginning and let it go for about a day, and you could smell it in the off gas. You could smell sulfur. I'd add a nutrient addition within an hour. It was clean.
Really?
Just carbon dioxide.
creeping up.
Yeah, and so just throw nutrient in there, and I did that for first few days, and it was fine.
And for nutrients, you're using just a nitrogen source, like
Fermade K, and I use Fermade K and DAP.
And DAP,
and just a mix of those.
A lot like meads,
right? Exactly.
Nutrients,
and you're doing daily additions.
Yeah, for I think maybe 4 days, just kind of dependent. Like by day 3 or 4, I was just kind of smelling the gas, and if it was sulfury, I'd add a little bit.
Great feedback.
Real scientific.
Yeah, that's the smart.
I have the numbers written down.
Yeah.
I use
How did I get away with your Coke habit, though? That's
well, I snorted a little bit, and then I dumped the rest in the cider.
good.
He realized it was fermented.
That's why I liked it so much.
Anyway, put the shit in the cider.
Yeast holes packing awesome.
If I like it, they'll like it.
Right.
So I would recommend those or that yeast. I always like doing a spontaneous ferment, and so I sulfite everything, especially on the pitched ones. I do a partial sulfiting on the spontaneous. That gets rid of molds and bacterias, but it won't actually kill the natural sac yeast because it can handle a little bit of hydrogen sulfide.
So you just do like a half dose of the
I think
Camden.
I think it's like 25%.
Yeah. Okay.
But 25% sulfite dose at the beginning, and then just let it go. And it's surprising how clean it ferment. In the 2 years I've done it, at about 3 months, it tastes like just one of the other ones that I did.
Seems like a cool
But then
approach.
it takes about like maybe another 3 to 6, and then it starts really getting funky and
a little more wild.
The wildness starts to happen.
You're making me want to make a cider here.
Let's make cider.
Yeah.
Warren is out now, but I'm still in.
I'll
so
help.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Whatever, Warren.
So how many ppms of sulfur is that, do you think, with that quarter dose?
With the quarter dose?
Sulfite?
Well, you vary your you vary the target concentration depending on the pH, because the hydrogen sulfide is dependent upon the pH. So it depends on the pH what ppm you're targeting. I believe in in about 5 gallons for a full dose, it was something like 8 Camden tablets.
For 5 gallons?
But on the pH that I had.
Right.
On the previous. And so I would vary it. So a quarter would be 2 or 3 tablets.
Right. Wow.
For a 5-gallon batch.
Didn't we figure that out? Was like 20 ppm or something like that? It's not. I mean, it's not as much as
it's
wine.
real low.
Yeah.
There's a great website. I'll have to look it up. It's a UK website that explains all the ppms you want to target for a partial kill, full strength kill, and it'll give you a chart based on here's your pH. This is what you need to add.
Just go into the Bing machine and just search for UK website.
Yeah, UK cider website.
You're right.
Yeah, those guys know how to make their cider. I mean, it's like we need to import some more of them. I probably would drink more cider.
Import their knowledge, yes.
Yeah.
UK cider website. I just did it.
Hey, what?
I think it's.
Did you find it?
What's coming up?
Isn't it ukcider.com? No, it's not. Strongbow apple cider. God, that's a good cider. Phil, you got enough? You're right for your next batch, man?
I am, yeah. That was really good feedback.
All right, good.
All three of you guys did wonderful, and I'm looking forward to my next pitch.
Cider.org.uk.
And the first cider victim on your show here. Thank you very much.
The inaugural cider victim.
Right.
Yeah.
No sweat, man. I appreciate you bringing that in. It was very tasty. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back. We're going to jump into Nick's Oatmeal Stout. Right, Nick?
That's correct.
All right, good. All right. It's Dr. Homebrew, everyone. Stick with us. We'll be right... wait, what the hell's going on? Why do I have this? All right, let me try this. I think we'll be right back. New technologies are fun.
Since the first time the Brewing Network microphones turned on, More Beer was behind it. More Beer sponsors the programming on the BN because, like you, they love brewing. And like the Brewing Network, they love sharing their knowledge. Morebeer.com isn't just a website to place your next equipment or ingredient order. Morebeer.com also gives you access to free beer information that will make you a better brewer. Go to morebeer.com and click into the Learning Center. You'll find podcasts, technical facts, video tutorials, and more, including access to The Buzz, More Beer's social network of more than 5,000 members. And some of them might even be crazier about beer than you are. Get over to morebeer.com today and take advantage of The Buzz, the forum, the Learning Center, and make sure you're signed up to receive the newest More Beer catalog. More Beer, bringing you absolutely everything for beer making.
That's it. I've had it. I am never putting hops in my beer again.
What? Why?
It's just too ridiculous. Insane prices, stupid contracts, high shipping costs, crappy selection.
Dude, you need Nico Brew.
Nico Brew will rock your f***ing face right the f*** off your f***ing skull. $5 shipping to all 50 states. Plus fantastic international rates get you low prices on Nico Brew's great selection of hops and more. Whether you're a home brewer, a pro brewer, or a homebrew shop owner, Nico Brew can get you the hops you need in increments big and small, single orders, spot buys, or full contracts. And there's only one place to join the uber special secret elite bare bones club where you'll get the best deals anywhere.
Holy shit.
NicoBrew.com. NIKOBREW. Nico Brew, your bare bones buddy in the brewing business.
Hey, dude, you know what beer this is?
Oh, no, all the labels are falling off.
Yeah, or the ink is run.
Well, if it's the pale ale, you're good, but stay away from the quote-unquote Belgian.
Oh, man, this guy needs to get some grog tags.
Grog tags are reusable, write-on, wipe-off, commercial-grade bottle labels for your brew. The guys at Grog Tag are homebrewers. They wanted great-looking, sturdy labels for your bottles, buckets, carboys, kegs, and growlers. They also wanted a label that not only looks good, but can be easily removed and reapplied during bottling without that nasty glue residue being left behind. No residue, water-resistant, and ice chest approved. Grog tags stay on in water or an ice chest, and they stay legible. Visit grogtag.com to customize your label or coaster from dozens of different templates for free and see how awesome your bottles can look.
It's that pseudo-Belgian.
Yeah, we're getting him some grog tags, dude.
Grog Tag. At least your beer will look good. grogtag.com.
Hello, fellow BNers. This is Sully from the 21st Amendment Brewery located in San Francisco, just 2 blocks from Giants Park. Before Nico and I opened the 21A and before I was a professional brewer, I homebrewed on my small 4-burner apartment stove in a back house in Santa Monica, California, making my extract brews before graduating to the daunting idea of all-grain brewing. Homebrew books and information was hard to come by back then. The internet hadn't been invented yet, along with other things we take for granted today, like electricity and potable water. One thing I wish I had back then when I was learning was a radio show that could teach me the ins and outs of brewing and answer questions that I had about homebrewing, a resource for making great craft beer. The 21st Amendment Brewery is excited to be a proud sponsor of Dr. Homebrew, a great show that teaches you what you need to know about making incredible beer. Good stuff. Listen up, you might learn something. I certainly did. And thanks for your support. Tasty Crack Games.
Now serving patient number 189. Number 189 to the counter, please.
Now back to Dr. Homebrew.
All right, welcome back, everyone. We're just pouring some more cider because why not? It's this kind of pseudo cider show. Nick, who is our next Dr. Homebrew guest, who does have an oatmeal stout, by the way, he's pouring some cider for us.
A different cider because it's the season. You know, it's fall.
'Tis the season for juicing apples. What's up with the cider, Nick?
I got the juice from Apple Hill, just like Phil did. I got it from 4 different places. But I think it's probably pretty similar, except the main difference is it's only a year old. So just looking at the color, it's quite significantly different. I don't know if I treated it that much differently.
It's a lot lighter,
but,
It's a lot paler, yeah.
Significantly more pale compared to Phil's.
Feels a
trying
bit
this
darker, yeah.
Yeah, trying the cider, when you see it first, straight before you ferment or anything like that, it's much darker in color, and that's kind of what Phil's looks like, 3 years later, but mine looks much lighter, so I don't know if it's an age thing or if I treated it differently or
Just
what.
different apples?
Yeah, it certainly may be different. Again, I got mine from 4 different places and blended them all together. I'm planning on doing something similar again this year, so...
Awesome.
Trying to figure out what to do.
This is nice.
Different apples and oxidation, just like how if you left an apple cut sitting on the counter, it's going to darken.
Your cider just turns brown over time?
So, I mean, it takes a while to get that dark brown, but
right.
If left out or over years of age, they can darken a little bit.
Sure, yeah. So that's why I was kind of curious if whether
Yeah.
or not in 3 years mine will be the same as Phil's.
I don't know why you guys are hanging on to your cider for so long.
I'm not going to. I'm going to actually make some new ones and blend it with this current one. But
Before Jason, mine lasted multiple years also.
Yeah, well, you're not a functioning alcoholic, apparently.
Who's Jason?
JP, sorry.
Jason is a different... I'll explain to you.
That's his alter
He's the guy who
ego,
chugs
huh?
the cider.
Yeah. Oh, God, I love cider so much. I just want to drink it all day. Oh, God, cider is amazing. Anyway, thanks,
Happy
Nick,
moment.
for bringing this.
Sure, I just thought it'd be a fun
Let's talk
comparison.
about your oatmeal stout. So you've been on the show before.
Yes,
I'm
I
sure.
have. We were on show probably number 3, I think, with a Pilsner.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a long time ago.
I think fanatics will definitely realize that. We have 3 glasses here, so that'll be for us. Bev is getting some more glasses for everybody else to try. So tell me about this oatmeal stout.
So this is JP's oatmeal stout. Am I sound familiar?
right.
This
Wait,
is the
that's
second.
cheating.
That's right.
It is cheating.
Wait,
Hey.
so did you brew it or did he?
I brewed it.
It's JP's. It's Nick's JP's oatmeal stout. It's like Ruth's,
your recipe.
It's like Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nick's J's
Okay.
Peas Oatmeal Stout.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So yeah, my buddy who I brewed this with, Michael Allman, he couldn't be here today. Unfortunately, he's working hard. Engineering. That's what happens. But we tried your beer first at NHC 2011.
Oh, wow.
I think at the BNA 6 party.
Okay.
And, that kind of stuck with us. It's like, hey, this is a really good beer. So we
Oh, wow.
we brewed it probably a month or 2 after NHC.
Okay.
Really liked it and drank it. It's all gone.
Cool.
Brewed it again and. Now I get to get some feedback on how it actually compares to the real JP beer.
God, I haven't brewed that beer in forever. It's terrible.
gotta be better.
When did you make this batch?
Let's see. I brewed this July 5th.
Okay, and this has cocoa nibs in it, right?
Yeah, it's got cocoa nibs in it. I followed your recipe almost to the T. We dropped the base malt by about 2 pounds. I think your original gravity is about 1058. We dropped it's about 17 pounds of pale malt. I think we dropped ours from 17 to about 15. Left
Okay.
everything else the same, but other than that, it's identical. And so I think we came out at about 1054 instead of 1058. But other than that, again, follow the recipe on your blog spot.
Oh, cool.
Exactly.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
It's a great beer, and again, that's why we run it again. But it'd be nice to get some feedback again, how close it is to the one you brewed, and
Yeah. Well, I'll
Yeah,
let the guys here, heap the praise upon my recipe building skills, and of course your brewing skills, but more importantly, my recipe building skills.
Certainly.
Lee, I'd like you to start.
Well, we had
praising
no
me,
idea
please.
there were cocoa nibs in this.
Yeah, well,
I mean, it definitely shows up in the flavor.
We
Yeah.
were not informed of the cocoa nibs.
I forgot. What do you want from me?
We are not amused.
Shame.
I just do it to just test you guys. That's all.
So we were supposed to pick out the cocoa nibs then.
By the way, Beverly just brought a cheese plate into the
We
studio.
sucked.
A cheese plate?
She's like,
awesome.
I'm tired.
She's like, I'm tired. I feel like a cheese plate will help.
Well,
It'll help keep me awake.
She's
It will?
introducing unwanted
leave it in the
aromas in the
studio.
judging room.
Right.
No,
She
yeah.
took it into her little closet.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Share
yeah,
it
no,
with
I'm
us.
not sharing it with you.
Yeah.
It's highly
I
caffeinated
paid for
cheese.
this fool.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Sorry.
So,
Go ahead.
oatmeal stout.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. What can you say about this?
Did the cocoa nibs throw? Is that like a super egregious error or?
Well, it definitely would have changed how I judged this beer.
Okay.
Because it basically puts it in a different category, and then you evaluate for, how well did those show up? How well do they balance the beer?
Can you adjust on the fly for my fuck up?
We'll
No.
think about it.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
All right.
Warren may be right.
All right.
I can adjust my fly, JP.
Please
All
do.
right, we're going there, right? No,
Yeah.
we'll score down for it appropriately.
See what ciders do to us? All right. Go ahead. Sorry.
Right. Aroma, dark coffee with licorice and cocoa hints over a bready malt base with nutty oatmeal notes. No hops noted. No DMS diacetyl. Very low green pepper note, which is something you often get with a lot of roast grains. Low esters, blueberry noted. Pretty much the style, although the roasty intensity is high. If you look through the style guidelines for this beer, usually the description is coffee and cream or milk chocolate. And this is more dark chocolate, which is probably those cocoa nibs coming through. And it's very dark version of this
almost like
beer.
a baker's chocolate, like not that sweet chocolate, but kind of tart.
What I
chocolate.
said in the flavor down the bottom, it's kind of like a Hershey's special dark chocolate bar. That's really what it tastes like. Appearance is black. It's very dark beer, fairly clear. It's not totally dark. I mean, it's black. It's not a dark brown kind of stout. Pours a low light tan foam which fades quickly to a low bead. It could use better head retention. This style should have a nice head that sticks around, doesn't fade away so quickly. But it's nice, it's clear, it's a reasonable color, it looks good. Flavor, dark chocolate flavor with coffee notes, a little bit of licorice and raisin. It's more an espresso and cream character than the classic coffee and cream character. Some nutty oatmeal flavor in there. No hops noted. A little bit of sort of a blackberry, blueberry kind of ester note. Might be a ferment ester. Might be from the malts. I don't know. Balances definitely to the malt. Hop bittering and flavor. Hop bittering is just supporting. Flavor is not really present, which is fine. Finishes medium dry. A little bit of lingering coffee, cocoa, cream, and berries kind of flavors. Pretty much to style. Although the malt flavors, and this may be the cocoa nib additions, it's very much in the dark side again. Like I was saying, it's very dark chocolate as opposed to the milk chocolate kind of flavor profile. Medium body and carbonation, not hot or alcoholic or astringent. Nice medium high creaminess. It's all very much to style. A bit drying. Has a low bit of chalky mineral note to it, perhaps. It sort of overbalances the sort of the oily silkiness you want from the oats. So between the sort of the drying malt and the maybe some mineral content here, that oiliness from the oats isn't coming through very much. There's a little bit of it. It's there. It's not that much. That's probably not really a big deal in the end, but that is something that's characteristic of this style. Overall, I thought it was a great dark chocolate flavors with supporting oat flavors, smooth drinking, and nice clean ferment. I really like it a lot more. I think stylistically the dark chocolate as opposed to the milk chocolate was kind of putting it out of style. But here's where your question comes in. If I had known that this is oatmeal stout with a bunch of cocoa nibs added in, I would have given it some leeway for that kind of flavor because you basically got this probably much darker specialty thing added in. I probably would have scored it up a little bit higher. Okay. As it was, I actually really liked it. It's very drinkable, very, very nice beer, very pleasant. That sort of Hershey special dark chocolate candy bar kind of flavor actually works really well here. Yeah. I gave it a 37, and I kind of wanted to score it higher, but I thought that just because some of these things, it just came across as a little bit out of style. Okay. Which is because you had added cocoa nibs to it, which we didn't know.
Hey, I didn't know. Did I know that, Nick? I probably did.
Yeah,
Nick probably told me.
Knowing that as a special edition, I could easily score this 3, 5, maybe more points higher. You know, wow. This could be a 40-point beer in my mind. I thought it was very nice.
Okay.
If you Google JP Stout, that's the first thing.
It was your recipe.
I don't Google JP's recipes.
That's right. Well, because I haven't added nibs in it for a while, so I guess I forget all the time. Okay.
It's a nice beer.
Thank you, Lee. Brian?
You forget to add the nibs sometimes?
I forget about that. I forget that I used to do it. I don't do it anymore. For some reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't brew anymore, though, do you?
I don't.
Just make cider.
Who brews?
That's why he doesn't add nibs.
Yeah, just pound cider. Go ahead.
Well, so in the aroma for me, I got a kind of a slightly sharp malt presence with some roastiness, fairly smooth chocolate notes in there. I thought I got a hint of a green apple-y kind of thing, like a little acetaldehyde poking through. It had a pretty moderately high fruitiness overall to me. It seemed a little on the estery side, but no DMS or diacetyl or anything like that in there. Appearance wise, it was a rich black color with a low light tan head that faded pretty soon after pouring. to a low color, little bubbles around the glass there. It was nearly opaque, but when you got down to the bottom, you could tell it was fairly clear. Flavor-wise, rich malt with coffee and espresso notes being pretty prominent. A little hint of like a slight stale coffee kind of thing, but I also got like that semi-sweet chocolate thing that Lee was talking about in there. It's definitely like a semi-sweet baking chocolate bar. And I wasn't expecting that, so it kind of threw me off a little bit. And I wasn't noticing as much acetaldehyde in the flavors. That might have just been kind of a fluke in the aroma. I was trying to grasp at straws as to what I was smelling there. Which is what a judge sometimes does.
You have to.
It's like, putting a word to that sensory thing you're getting is sometimes the hardest thing.
No, we never do. Yeah. We know.
It's definitely balanced.
Brian's making it up to throw you all off.
Balanced in the malt and the roast, and pretty fruity. Finish is fairly dry, kind of enhancing that semi-sweet chocolate thing. It's not super sweet beer, and it doesn't really. To me, it didn't have a lot of like oatmeal flavor to it, or oat kind of component was kind of slightly missing. It had like kind of a sharp acidic tang where that would be. And from the darker malts, the roast and coffee and all of that linger into the aftertaste. There's a lot going on here. Chocolatiness and
a lot of that
dark malts.
From the nibs, too.
It's big, yeah.
Yeah, the nibs leave that kind of tart, tangy thing
and that
behind.
Maybe the peppery thing, too, a little bit. I don't know, yeah. But, yeah, that could be from the dark malts.
Yeah, don't get Warren started on the peppery notes from dark malts, please.
Speaking about peppery notes.
Hey, stop,
Let's get
Warren.
him started, yeah.
All right, am I getting started? So
no, you're not getting started.
Okay, shut her down.
Yeah. Right.
Body-wise, it was kind of medium-bodied with a medium-low carbonation. I thought I found a slight warmth in this. It wasn't too high, but a little bit hey, there's a little alcohol in here. It wasn't very astringent or anything like that. It was, despite all the dark malts that are in it and everything else. But it just lacked, to me, in the mouthfeel was where it suffered a little bit. For an oatmeal stout, just judging it as a straight oatmeal stout, it lacked some of that smooth creaminess that I expected in the style. Mm-hmm. Where it just like floats off your tongue and just, it's like butter, like, whoa. So, it captured some of the elements of the oatmeal stout style, which was what I judged it to. Mm-hmm. It was a pretty pleasant drinking beer overall, but just the kind of the odd fruitiness, which can sometimes come from the darker malts too, different kinds, like a kind of tropical stout flavors and aromas in it a little bit, and the sharper dark malt notes were a bit distracting. So I would have reduced those darkest malts and maybe drop the fermentation temperature down a little bit to get those esters a little more in check. And I don't know what it was fermented at. We'll find out. He fermented it at 64. No.
94.
If you could lager this,
I hate.
great.
I try as a judge. You try not to guess things like you must have fermented this at 67 degrees. Why don't you drop it to 65.6? Or
thank you for pointing that out. That nothing drives me more insane than that kind of shit. Where judges go, you should try to back off on this thing that you didn't really do.
Yeah, as a judge, you just can't assume anything. You can't. If you're mashing or steeping it, how did they make this beer? You don't know. So I said if you're maybe mash or steep at a slightly higher temperature to increase the residual sweetness a little bit in there, that would round it out a little better to me. And the oatmeal character just wasn't quite coming through, and the oaty flavor, it needs to come through a bit more somehow. So it tastes like a bittersweet chocolate. But my main point of feedback in this was the one thing I did know about this was that it was JP's recipe. Is never use JP's recipes. No, but it was a good.
Oh, Brian's mic turned off. That's so weird.
How unfortunate.
Yeah, I can't fix it.
Oh, there I am. Okay. No, I scored it at 31. I thought it was a pretty nice beer. It just wasn't quite to the oatmeal stout style. Mm-hmm. But I do understand it a little bit better now, and I probably would score it a few points higher as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I may have scored it a little high. I scored this beer higher mostly because I just really love that cocoa flavor that was in there, that dark chocolate flavor.
It is nice,
which turns out to be probably mostly the specialty edition.
Wasn't what I expected, but it's a nice flavor.
For me, it's the pale chocolate edition with the cocoa nibs. Like that combination for me kind of enhance. They play off well each other. They play, whatever. I don't know if you noticed that, Nick, at all, but
I certainly do. Yeah.
Yeah, but what Brian said was absolutely right in terms of the mouthfeel and the creaminess you'd expect in this beer. That's not really showing through very well here.
No, and it's not, and it's the recipe. I think so. You were asking Nick about how
let's talk about his recipe.
How it compares to what I've noticed too. I've traditionally not really cracked 35 on competitions with this beer, because mainly of what the guys have been saying. It's not really an oatmeal stout. I like lower ABV beers, and for some reason with this recipe, I can't get that mouthfeel, the big body that some brewers can do with a lower ABV beer, but with a lot of specialty malt. And so I don't know. That's what I've noticed too. To me, it tastes pretty dead on. I think the difference in the cocoa nibs is hard for me to remember how my beer is with the cocoa nibs that I use, because the nibs really do add a varying degree of.
I think it's rather significant what they add to it.
Yes, yeah. But I drank it. And I was like, it tastes pretty much just like my beer. It does need some more body, and I don't know how to do that yet. I'm still playing around with it. So when I start brewing again, I'm going to brew this a couple times and try some different stuff. But I think you did a great job at it. But it tastes just like it. But that's what they're saying is it's not really quite an oatmeal stout. It doesn't really have that oatmeal kind of consistency or the slickness that Brian was speaking about. And I've noticed that too on mine.
Well,
and that's just the
here?
recipe. Yeah, go for it. Give us the deal.
I tried to follow JP's recipe, almost identical. Again, I like the lower alcohol beers too. This is 4.7%. That's kind of right in the range where I like it. Yeah. We did drop it a little bit. JP's recipes for an 11-gallon batch. We tried to follow that exactly, except I think his original gravity is 1058 on the recipe you've got posted from 2011. But we dropped it down a little bit. And again, it sounds like you're in the process of changing it. So,
well, at that time I posted it. It was I had just started entering the nationals with it.
Sure.
And so I had gotten these same comments. I'm like, well, I'll just bump it up, even though I don't necessarily want that higher ABV. But that's the only way that I knew how to do that.
Sure.
So anyway.
Yeah, so we dropped that base malt down. So instead of 17 pounds of pale malt, we used 15 pounds. That's 65% of the grist. And then we used 2.5 pounds of oats. That's about 11%. Pound and a half of Crystal 80. Pound and a half of chocolate. Each of those making up about 6.5% each. A pound of Carapils at 4.3%. And then 12 ounces of Carafa 1 at 3 1/3. And 12 ounces of roasted barley at 3 1/3. And I don't know what you do with your dark grains. We added them at Vorloff.
Okay, I just put them in the mash.
Yeah, we again, I know this stringency is an issue for a lot of people, and especially since I know we're adding the cocoa nibs and the oak chips later on. Because again, this is the second time I brewed this batch. The first time we did it, I know in your recipe you talked about adding oat chips in the fermenter and then cubes and the cocoa nibs later. And from that first one, we felt we got more of an oak character, more tannins extracted out of it. And so I don't remember what we did on the first one, but I thought we wanted to reduce that a little bit because we again remember the one we had from you that tasted a little bit more rounded, more full. And so and added those dark grains at Vorloff. And then this time we did not add any chips to the fermenter at all. We just stuck with the oak cubes and the cocoa nibs in the keg. Okay. And they're still sitting in there. Again, when I pulled them off today, again, that's what you talked about, just leaving them in there. So we added half a pound to each keg with the cocoa nibs, and then I think it's 2 ounces of the French oak cubes each keg.
So adding up all those different roast grain additions, that's a pretty hefty proportion.
Yeah, and again, exactly. That's why we chose to add them at the Vorloff, because again, it is a pretty hefty addition. Again, it's 12 ounces of the Carafa and 12 ounces of the roasted barley, and then there's a pound and a half of the chocolate. So all those ones
plus
we added.
Plus the nibs down the road.
Plus the nibs down the road. So that again, that's why this time, again, I don't remember whether we did the first time, but this time we added all those at Vorloff, so after the mash, just because, again, that's pretty significant dosage.
You might want to consider throttling that back a bit. The other thing is what did you mash at for temperature?
I think JP recommends 152. I think we overshot that maybe by a degree or two. Surprising thing, usually we tend to hit our numbers pretty well, or, end up a little bit lower on our final gravity than what we're shooting for, and we actually ended up a little bit high, I think 4 or 5 points. So rather than what Beersmith was saying, we'd end up, I think, about like 10, 12, 10, 13. We ended up at 1018, so almost 4 or 5 points high. So
this is a 1018 terminal?
Yeah, this is 1018 terminal, and so I don't know how much we overshot that by. So I'm thinking rather than 152, we were certainly at 153 is what I measured, maybe 154. But yeah, so that 1018 terminal is actually what I measured. So that was actually 3 or 4 points high.
Okay.
Versus what I expected.
154 is probably about right for something like this. You could push a little higher. Sure. You could push the crystal malts up a little bit to bring the body up. But if you've got a 1018 terminal gravity and a beer tastes this dry, you've got a lot of things drying out your palate here. All that roast grains and the nibs, I think, is probably...
And it's the oak, too. The oak and the
nibs.
Oak
really and the nibs, that's what I have trouble.
Did you actually put oak in here, too?
So there's 2 ounces of oak, French oak cubes and this half a pound of the nibs. And I have trouble distinguishing between the two because I certainly get the drying tannin character on my tongue. It's just like biting into a red wine grapeseed type character. And I was like, okay, is that from the nibs? Is that from the oak?
It's probably from the nibs dry out a lot.
The nibs certainly seem to be the character because we
that perceived
took some of the
dryness,
nibs, put them in our mouth, taste them and feel them, and you
they're
certainly
tart, bitter.
They are certainly tart.
Yeah, they're bitter, and I didn't even really taste the oak in it.
Yeah.
Well, and then you said you brewed this in July.
Yes.
And the nibs were added in the keg, and it's still on there.
Yeah,
that's a long time.
James leaves them in there.
It's
a long time, and that's the thing. We're just rolling with it just to kind of see,
what happens.
It's going to do. Exactly.
I mean, I've left nibs on the beer for 8 months, and they kind of started to turn at that point. Getting more tannin than flavors, but it all depends on the quality of the nibs. Not that that yours are bad or anything, but just the type where you got them from, the kind they are.
This was a single source special, more beer special.
Not those.
Was it fair trade organic?
Nicaraguan fair trade, like 1 pound special.
See, that's why.
Not the stuff JP got from the guy under the overpass.
No, not that stuff. No.
But it's really interesting. Actually, it
that'll
mellows
make a difference
though
too.
because when we add them, I tried it like a day or two after adding the nibs. And man, is it over the top, like just in your freaking face.
Because you got all the dust and that kind of settles
and
out
then
and you pull that right there.
After a month or so, that character really starts to mellow, even with it still sitting in the keg.
Yeah.
How much it mellows is actually rather surprising. But to me, it's still pretty in your face how much tannins you get.
Leave it.
I'm rolling with
it'll
the
change.
JP style. We're just leaving it in there,
It'll change. That tartness will drop out a little bit, and everything will kind of start rounding. The oak will kind of poke through, I think, the nibs, and yeah.
So one thing you might consider changing in this beer,
JP,
is the name. I mean, with all the stuff you're putting, it's got a really nice flavor profile.
You're right.
The cocoa nibs are a great thing to add in here. It's very drying in the finish. It just does not come across like an oatmeal stout. It's got oats in it. Don't call it an oatmeal stout. At this point, it's something else.
What would you call it?
Damn it.
You just make something up.
Nick's oatmeal stout.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Or JP's, JP and Nick's nibs and roast, whatever you want.
Roast.
The thing is, the additions you've put in here, they've added some really wonderful flavors and very interesting character. I really like it.
Call it a session for an export.
Yeah, that's not that. I mean, it takes it out of the realm where it's recognizable as an oatmeal stout anymore because it kills that mouthfeel, it kills that oiliness. It's got a way darker flavor profile. It's just not there anymore.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would rather name this beer something else and tweak the recipe all around to make it back to being an oatmeal stout. If you want to do that, just go make an oatmeal stout. Get rid of all these specialty things.
What would you do? Like, what would you do? What would you do to strip it down and make it a proper oatmeal stout?
Get rid of the nibs. Get rid of the oak.
Sure.
Probably reduce the roast a fair amount.
Mash a little higher.
Maybe mash a little higher. Add a little bit more crystal. Those are all kind of obvious things you would do to sort of put it more to where. Sorry. A little bit more oatmeal. 11% is pretty good, but
If you switch to dehusked carafa, you think that would make
go to carafa too? That might help a bit, reduce the astringency a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I put carafa too. I think I do that now.
I
need to update that recipe. I need to update that recipe.
Carafa 1.
Yeah. No, I need to update.
No,
it.
your original recipe has carafa 2. It's just the homebrew store I go to has 1 and 3.
So there you go. 3 would be
go
fine.
for the 3 then. Yeah. Yeah. Those things would make it more an oatmeal style. Right, back to the direction of a regular oatmeal style. But honestly, I would just figure out how to refine this and just change the name.
Yeah.
Are
you taking notes for us?
American stout or a foreign export stout with oatmeal and nibs and oat chips and whatever, and it's nice in its own merits.
Or just don't let snobby beer judges drink it who are so set in their ways that they only want to taste an oatmeal stout that tastes like
or entered as a
Samuel
category
Smith's
23
in England
beer
or something.
Or
whatever.
well, then what would Lee drink when we're sitting around?
Yeah, this is a really good
I'm
beer.
happy to drink
I didn't
this.
know how to pigeonhole it or put it anywhere, but
it's delicious.
So
There's a
you
lot
said you
going
don't
on.
add the nibs anymore, though?
No, I don't. I think because I'm trying to dial in the
doesn't brew
the
anymore.
recipe still. I don't brew anymore, but when I do,
If you did.
if I did, I don't know. I think it was just a phase I was going through.
I like the character the nibs add, but it's certainly strong,
I do
though.
enjoy it. Yes,
Yeah,
it is very good. Why haven't I done it? I don't know. I think because I'm a little unhappy with the recipe. I need some more body in it, and I feel like I want to nail that down and then add the nibs.
Well, I mean, we're waiting with bated breath for the
I'm
next.
sure you are.
The last change was in 2011, and now it's.
Yeah, I feel like,
2014,
what's that fat guy who writes Game of Thongs? Martin.
George R.R. Martin. Or whatever it is.
Where everyone's just waiting to figure out what happens.
We're
I'm like,
waiting for the next change.
I'll figure it out
We're waiting for the
someday.
update.
If you wrote it down, the last time you did just your regular oatmeal stout, it tasted more like an oatmeal stout than this.
Right. Yeah, I have that recipe somewhere. Maybe I'll send it to Nick as a thank you gift.
Maybe.
We'll see. That's it. Nick, you don't have any questions. We went through it all, right?
Again, it's JP's recipe. We thought it was fantastic the first time we tried it in 2011.
I can't reiterate that enough that I didn't do anything.
It's all his fault.
Anything that's wrong with it, his fault. Anything
Yeah.
we added to it that was awesome is our
totally to your
accolades.
credit.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But no, again, in 2011 when we tried it, it was extremely memorable, and that's
Awesome.
why we brewed it the first time, and that's why we're brewing it again. And again, this is the first time we get JP to actually taste it and say, "Hey, this is what I brewed," or "No, that you're totally freaking off base."
Stop. JP's been waiting 2 years.
Don't
for
even
this
reference
episode.
me when you
Yeah.
brew this. So.
No, it's awesome, man. I really appreciate it.
It's a nice beer.
We're going to take a break. We're going to come back. We're going to do a little rundown, do our grog tag giveaway, and try some more cider, and then get out of here. It's Dr. Homebrew back after this.
Do you know the 3 most important rules in brewing? Sanitation, sanitation, and sanitation. And no one does it better than 5-Star Chemicals. 5-Star knows sanitation. You can only sanitize clean equipment. And 5-Star knows how to clean, too. For craft brewers and home brewers, 5-Star has what you need to keep your fermenters, serving tanks, kegs, and draft lines sparkling and free of any beer-spoiling bacteria. PBW, caustic, acid cleaners, Star San, SaniClean, lubricants and defoamers, pH stabilizers, and more. 5-Star Chemicals has cleaning supplies, safety supplies, heat exchangers, pumps, hoses, and valves. And 5-Star is proud to offer eco-friendly products that exceed customer expectations. If you have a cleaning problem, you need the 5-Star solution. Visit 5starchemicals.com or call 800-782-7019. 800-782-7019 and get the 5-Star treatment today.
As a brewer, you already don't settle for second best. You want great tasting beer and you want great equipment to make it with. So don't settle for the second best grain mill. You want a Monster Mill from Monster Brewing Hardware. Monster Mills are tough, come in 2 and 3 roller designs, and are made right here in the USA from superior materials for longer lasting performance. Pick the mill that's right for you at monsterbrewinghardware.com and take Bevo's advice.
Trust me, it's always better to have a bigger tool than you think you need.
Monster Mills have the best warranty in the business. Your satisfaction is guaranteed. Visit monsterbrewinghardware.com now and check out all the mills and mill accessories. Don't settle for second best. Get a Monster Mill from Monster Brewing Hardware. Are you a member of the American Homebrewers Association? Well, you should be. Members of the AHA can focus on brewing beer, and the AHA takes care of the rest. The American Homebrewers Association advocates on behalf of homebrewers like you to legalize the hobby in all 50 states and make sure that beer laws make sense. Plus, there are many great benefits that come with your AHA membership, like pub discounts that give you awesome deals at bars, restaurants, breweries, and more. Zymergy Magazine and eZymergy for tons of articles, how-tos, easy-to-follow recipes, and news about the hobby you love. And access to the members-only content on homebrewersassociation.org. But the AHA can't do it without your support. Join today so the American Homebrewers Association can keep fighting for your home brewing rights. Visit homebrewersassociation.org or join right now from the homepage of the Brewing Network website. Relax. Don't worry. It's the American Homebrewers Association.
Have you ever dreamed of attending the World Brewing Academy? This year, thanks to Lalamond and Danstar, one lucky brewer will make that dream a reality for free. Lalamond and Danstar invite you to enter the Beer School 2015 contest. One lucky grand prize winner will receive fully paid tuition to the 2015 World Brewing Academy web-based concise course in brewing technology worth almost $4,000. From now until December 13th, 2014, every Danstar yeast packet you use is your ticket to enter. Visit danstaryeast.com for the details and to print your official entry form. There's no limit on the number of times you can enter, so get brewing with Danstar and get your entries in to the Danstar 2015 Beer School Contest. Whether you want to build your home brewing skills or build a career as a professional brewer, this course will change the way you think of beer and brewing. Enter at danstaryeast.com and get the dry yeast advantage with Danstar and Lalamond Premium Brewing Yeast, and enter to win.
And now to the finale of Dr. Homebrew.
That's right, everyone. It is the finale indeed. We run down the beers that we've had, and we tell you what we've been drinking lately. We've been drinking some specialty stuff. So first up, we had Phil with his cider, and pretty much the two comments, well, at least one of the comments I had was, stop waiting 2.5 years to drink it. Just drink it.
That's just patience.
Drink it all. I don't think a cider should be a year old. But that's just me.
A really nice flavor, though. It aged well to me. And
it did age well,
great.
which is a testament to your cleanliness.
Why not let it age?
I think. But Warren's point was try a cider yeast, like a proper cider yeast. You kind of get some of those different flavors that you would, associate with an actual common cider, right?
Right, because to me, a wine yeast makes the cider taste more like a wine. Mm-hmm. And champagne made it taste more like a kind of flat apple champagne. And I like my cider to be more, I guess, either have a neutral yeast character or if it's going to like have some sort of like fruity ester to it.
Yeah.
Versus making it dry, kind of like wine-like, I guess.
Yeah,
that was my suggestion.
Yeah, I mean, champagne yeast is kind of neutral in a sense. I mean, I think you're relying a lot on that carbonic acid in the grape to give the profiles.
Well,
right?
I think it has a specific ester profile.
Yeah,
that you associate because it reminded me of grapes. Like that could have been an apple grape blend to me, just because of those yeasts to me, like yeast that's found on apples reminds me of apples. Yeast that's on grapes, if it's naturally fermented, to me reminds me of grapes, even if it's not fermenting grape juice. I don't know what causes that, but
yeah,
that's what I get.
Well, I think that's what all these a lot of these yeasts are derived from. You know, thousands of years ago, mutations that are just wild yeast that are found on the things, right?
Yeah, it still tasted plenty appley though, but it did have like kind of a champagne like character to it, and like light little bubbles flowing through it. And, but it was super pleasant, I thought.
Oh yeah.
And then Nick's Oatmeal Stout with the nibs and the oak that I forgot to mention.
Forgot to tell us about.
And the chili peppers and the
nibs and the oak that dominated the profile.
There was vanilla and molasses
and the goat blood
and 3 peacock feathers.
Right. Well, it was more like 4, but I didn't.
Newt. They're small.
What do we have to say about that? We kind of were all over, mainly more bashing on me than Nick. So
never used JP's recipe.
We didn't bash on Nick at all, I think.
Shit.
Which is well deserved. Yeah. No, it was a good beer. I really liked it. The cocoa nib flavor came through really nicely. It's just with the cocoa nibs and the oak chips that you had in there, in the end, it just sort of drove it away from being anything like an oatmeal stout. It's way too drying, way too dark in the flavor profile as far compared to like the milk chocolate you expect and the coffee cream of an oatmeal stout. So it just doesn't come across as an oatmeal stout anymore. But on its own merits, it's actually a very tasty beer. It's a good job.
There's a lot going on in this beer. There's nuttiness, there's chocolatiness. It tastes like a semi-sweet baker's chocolate bar, and it finishes pretty dry. It's really hard to pigeonhole a beer like this, and it's really hard to enter a beer like this in a competition. With all that's going on, it's amazing that someone could brew it and make it this drinkable with everything that's in there. So, kudos to the brewer there. A nice job.
All right, there you go, Nick.
A return
go ahead.
Contestant.
Yes, both of them, as a matter of fact.
Did he win last time? Or were you in competition?
Well, they weren't on together. Have either of you guys won the GrogTag $40 gift certificate?
No. When we were on in the third episode, that was
that
was not a thing.
That was
not
a thing.
GrogTag. Yeah.
That's
Although
right.
I am using GrogTag labels on my growlers.
There you go. I thought I recognized that.
We do that.
Nice work. Okay, well, it's time for the at least your beer will look good. GrogTag $40 giveaway.
Who wants to do some math?
Who's our winner?
We have
Beverly will do math.
For the cider, we have a 39 and a 36.
Too full of cheese.
And averages to a 37.5.
37.5, yeah.
I like how Bev's looking at me, asking me to repeat myself.
37 and a 31.
Even though she has headphones, so she can hear me.
So I think the oatmeal stout gets the grog.
The oatmeal stout,
awesome.
and it's beer, so it should
by
get
a
the
few
grog
points.
tag.
There you go, Nick.
Right.
$40 gift certificate from GrogTag.
At least it'll look good.
Yeah, at least it'll look good. You've already used them. So.
I've already embraced them, but we'll embrace them some more.
You can branch out a little bit if you want.
Exactly. That's right. Some metal beer science in the future.
And you can share the loser award with JP.
Exactly. That's right.
You can blame it on him.
I get 20, you get 20. It's
no,
fine.
you're host of the show. You can't get the cash.
I can
But
do
you can probably
whatever
get some
I want.
tags.
I can do whatever I want. I can't get the cash. No, it's definitely not cash.
Right,
if it was cash, I would win every time.
Right. The appearance of a conflict of interest is as bad as the real thing.
Yeah, it's fine. It's the Brewing Network. You think anyone cares? I don't
Yeah.
think anyone cares. Before we get out of here, we are drinking some of the How Do You Like Them Apples from Moonlight Meadery. This big, giant 13.5% New England hard cider, which I think that I got to think that there's some honey in it. Tasting it, but I don't know.
It's in a hand-labeled bottle that says "not for sale." So sorry to disappoint, but you probably can't.
It's a sample.
This.
It's a sample. He will. You will be able to.
It's
get it.
commercially available.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, now it is. Okay.
Oh, it is now?
Yeah, I've had this for like a
very
month.
soon, yeah.
How do you like
2
them
months?
apples?
I think.
And you didn't just chug it down?
No,
It's cider.
I care
It's
about
13.5%.
sharing it with people. Well, that too.
He cares. That's so
I
sweet.
care. So thank you to Michael at Moonlight Meadery for sending us some of the
Thank you,
cider.
Michael.
It's
Michael's a good
delicious.
guy.
It's very good. I think we're ready to get out of here. Did I miss anything? I don't think I missed anything. I do want to tell you guys about the Sour Hour, in case you haven't heard. That's a show with Jay Goodwin from the Rare Barrel out in Berkeley, a local cidery who actually, or not cidery, wow. Soury.
A soury.
Yeah. Local sour beer
Doesn't mean
company.
they grow sours.
They won, I think... They won one medal
American
at GABF,
Sour.
gold in American Sour at GABF. I'm actually going there tomorrow night because I can't get enough of this sour beer. I love sour beer, and I don't really like anything. So if I like the Rare Barrel, they got to be producing some quality stuff. So check out the Sour Hour. You can find it on iTunes, anywhere you can find this podcast, especially. You'll be able to find Jay talking to other sour beer producers. I know he was talking to Lauren Salazar from New Belgium a little bit ago, and it's been a really great show. I think they've only done 3 or 4 shows, but people really enjoyed it, and Jay's a nice guy. So check that shit out. And thanks again to 5 Star Chemicals. Go to 5starchemicals.com and learn all about PBW and Star San and all the benefits therein. Until we see you guys next time, it's Dr. Homebrew.